So, part 2 of my video documentary series, I'll be talking about prenatal birth and the first 2 years of life and the stages and needs that go along with it. Again, I'll be looking at my little papers here, so if you hear some pages turning, that's pretty much what it is. Okay, so the first stage, we'll talk about Maslow. During prenatal birth, the only need that babies need while they're still in the womb is the physiological needs, pretty much. So they need, food, they need nourishment, they need hydration, they need sleep, they need air. Erickson's stage, it's kind of hard to say if they're actually going through a stage. They really aren't because they're still in the womb, but I do think it's important to recognize that birth is that first interaction with life, so I think that's right when the trust versus mistrust stage starts. So a success for Maslow's physiological need would look like a healthy baby, healthy body weight, healthy size, and no preventable deformities. And a failure would be preventable deformities such as fetal alcohol syndrome or a mother who smokes while she's pregnant and the baby's born very underweight. A success for Erickson's stage of trust versus mistrust is that the baby is delivered safely and makes connection with mom. A failure would be that the baby could have a traumatic first experience, maybe he's dropped or maybe he doesn't take to the mother. Interaction of the two. So if the baby's born healthy due to physiological needs being met, then it'll be born healthy, it'll be born into the world with an already established trust with the mother. I think there's kind of like a innate trust there. Alright, and personal application. I don't remember being a newborn. I don't really think anyone does, but I do have an interest in midwifing. So I've watched videos, whether they're real or, staged for television or just the babies being born. I think it's a very interesting process. So I can see that the mother has not neglected the baby if the baby's born, healthy weight, healthy size. And I think it's really, like I said again, there's like an innate trust there. So I think it's interesting, like sometimes the baby will just stop crying when the mother holds it, like he's brought into the world and he's crying and screaming and the doctors are handing him to the mom and the mom holds him and he just stops crying. Like he just knows. He's like, oh, I trust you. So I feel like there's like that innate trust versus mistrust there with babies when the mom physiologically takes care of it before it's born. Alright, so first 2 years, we'll talk about that second period of the lifespan. Maslow. Physiological needs are important during this time. They need water, they need food, they need sleep, air, all the basic necessities. Safety needs come into play. So, show a little visual here. Safety becomes of interest during this time of life. So they need to be in secure surroundings, they need stability, they need to feel safe with their parents because that's really their only, landline to the outside world is their parents. Erickson. I think it's interesting that some of the stages interact when you talk about specific periods of the lifespan because Erickson's stages go through years of life. So birth, the first 2 years go through 0 to 1.5 years old, but the first 2 years kind of interact with trust versus mistrust and autonomy versus shame and doubt. So trust versus mistrust, the child of this age has like a developed trust with the parents, again, kind of like birth, but it grows. They have to trust the parents, they have to learn to trust them or not trust them. Autonomy versus shame and doubt, they learn the physical skills and develop a trust for them or a doubt. So this is the time when they learn to crawl, maybe, I don't think they start walking, I don't really know, I'm not a mom, but they start learning those physiological processes. So rolling and crawling, and they learn to trust that or they learn to not trust that. A success for Maslow's physiological and safety needs at this age would be their physiological needs are met, they're nourished, they're hydrated, they're healthy, and the child also has to feel safe, they feel cared for, they feel like, mom and dad are superheroes, they're gods, you know, because they're the ones that take care of them and they trust them for that. But a failure would be the child is underfed, maybe he isn't getting enough sleep, maybe he's underclothed, you know, wearing a t-shirt in wintertime, not a good thing in Michigan, and also he doesn't feel safe with the caregiver. And I think that's important because they could be in constant fear, which also hurts their cognitive processes. So Erikson's success for trust versus mistrust and autonomy versus shame and doubt would be that the child trusts the caregiver, basically, again, with the whole trust and feel safe thing. The child trusts the caregiver, and the child begins to be self-reliant on some physical capabilities. They become excited to roll over, excited to crawl. A failure would be that there is a lack of trust for the caregiver and that the child doesn't become confident in physical skills and begins to doubt self. So, interaction of the two. The child is well fed, child feels safe, and then because of that he trusts the caregiver because they're the one that is providing those things for them. And with encouragement they'll trust physical skills, so again with the caregiver being an important part of this stage of life. So, personal application. So I actually did know someone who their mother smoked while they were pregnant. She was born very small, and she was underweight, and her family was in poverty, so they were always gone, they were working, and so she actually told me that she was late to walk. She wasn't an early walker by any means. So because she was born small, maybe that's part of it, but I also think that because her parents weren't around, she was kind of like a late bloomer when it came to that. I know she wasn't, we grew up together, so she was kind of a late bloomer in her studies as well. But in relation to Maslow's hierarchy, her physiological needs weren't cared for before birth, and her safety wasn't strong because her parents were always gone. And because of that, she didn't have proper support during this stage of life, and I think maybe that's why she didn't learn to crawl or to walk as soon as like other kids that age would. I think it's kind of sad, but I know that happens, and I think because of that she felt some doubt, some shame and doubt in her skills, and she struggled with that probably for a lot longer than other kids do at that age with the autonomy versus shame and doubt. You hope that they all find that autonomy, but I don't think that she did. I think she struggled with the shame and doubt in her physical skills for a long time. So that wraps up my part 2 of the discussion. Part 3 will be next.